For a long time, Neanderthals were imagined as crude, stooped creatures standing somewhere between ape and human. That image has mostly collapsed. Today, scientists see them as a close human relative, strong, adaptable, intelligent, and deeply shaped by the Ice Age world they inhabited. Neanderthals lived across Europe and parts of Western and Central Asia during the Middle to Late Pleistocene, surviving in cold landscapes, shifting forests, open steppe, and rugged mountain regions. They were not failed versions of us. They were another kind of human, with their own evolutionary history. Their story is not only about extinction around 40,000 years ago. It is also about survival, contact, interbreeding, and the surprising fact that part of them remains inside many modern humans today. The name Neanderthal comes from the Neander Valley in Germany, where a fossil now known as Neanderthal 1 was discovered in 1856. At the time, scientists did not yet have a clear framework for understanding human evolution. Early interpretations were shaped by outdated racial ideas and by assumptions that anything ancient must be inferior. As more fossils appeared in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Neanderthals were increasingly treated as a separate, primitive branch of humanity. One influential reconstruction by Marcellin Boule portrayed them as hunched, brutish, and unintelligent. That image stuck in popular culture for decades, even though later research showed that much of it was exaggerated or simply wrong. The Neanderthal became a mirror for changing scientific ideas. By the middle of the 20th century, many researchers believed human evolution moved in a straight line, from ape-like ancestors, through a Neanderthal phase, and finally to modern humans. But evolution is not a ladder. It is a branching tree. In the 1970s, the Out of Africa model gained strength, arguing that modern humans evolved in Africa and later expanded into Eurasia. Under this view, Neanderthals were not our direct ancestors in a simple chain. They were a sister population that had evolved separately for hundreds of thousands of years. Then, in 2010, genome sequencing transformed the story again. Ancient Neanderthal DNA showed that they had interbred with modern humans. The boundary between them and us became much more complicated. Neanderthal bodies were built for a demanding world. Their skulls were long and low, with a heavy rounded brow ridge and a distinctive bony projection at the back known as an occipital bun. Their jaws and teeth were powerful. Their chests were broad, their limbs relatively short, and their bodies compact compared with many modern humans. These traits likely helped conserve heat in cold environments, following a biological pattern seen in many animals adapted to colder climates. A shorter, stockier body loses heat more slowly than a tall, slender one. But climate was not the only force shaping them. Small populations, repeated isolation, and population crashes during glacial periods may also have allowed genetic drift to amplify certain features over time. Neanderthals were not giants, and they were not small ape-like creatures either. Fossil evidence suggests individuals ranged roughly from 147.5 to 177 centimeters in height, or about 4 feet 10 inches to 5 feet 10 inches. Average males may have stood around 165 centimeters, or 5 feet 5 inches, and weighed about 75 kilograms, or 165 pounds. What they lacked in height, they made up for in strength. Their bones show powerful muscle attachments, suggesting bodies accustomed to hard physical work, traveling over rough terrain, hunting large animals, carrying materials, and surviving injuries. Their world demanded toughness. A Neanderthal body was not designed for speed over open savanna like some early human forms, but for endurance, force, and resilience in difficult Ice Age landscapes. One of the most intriguing facts about Neanderthals is their brain size. On average, their brain volume was larger than that of any living human population, with estimates around 1,640 cubic centimeters for males and 1,460 for females. But bigger does not automatically mean more advanced in every way. Brain organization matters. Neanderthal brains appear to have differed from modern human brains in regions connected to cognition, social processing, and language. They also had large bodies and powerful visual systems, which may have required substantial neural investment. This could help explain why their archaeological record often appears less varied than that of early modern humans. Still, a simpler material record does not mean simple minds. It means we must be careful about what tools and bones can actually prove. Neanderthals made stone tools associated mainly with the Mousterian industry, a Middle Paleolithic technology. These tools were not random rocks with sharp edges. They required planning, selecting the right stone, shaping cores, striking flakes at controlled angles, and producing useful cutting, scraping, and piercing implements. Neanderthals used these tools to butcher animals, work hides, shape wood, and process plant materials. Their toolkit may look limited compared with the explosion of blade tools, bone tools, ornaments, and symbolic objects associated with some Cro-Magnon sites, but it was effective for a very long time. The key question is not whether Neanderthals were capable. They clearly were. The question is why their technologies changed more slowly, and how population size, environment, and contact networks affected innovation. Fire was central to Neanderthal life. They maintained it and may have been able to create it, though the details remain debated. Fire offered warmth, protection, light, and the ability to cook food, making calories easier to extract. Around hearths, Neanderthals could repair tools, process hides, share food, and survive brutal winters. Evidence also suggests they may have used simple clothing or coverings, such as hides, blankets, or poncho-like garments. Unlike tailored clothing made with fine needles, these would not leave much direct archaeological evidence. But in cold Pleistocene Europe, some form of insulation would have been essential. The Neanderthal home was not a permanent house in the modern sense. It was a shifting pattern of caves, shelters, camps, fires, tools, and familiar hunting grounds. Neanderthal diets were flexible, but they often focused on whatever rich food sources were available nearby. In many regions, that meant large game, horses, deer, bison, aurochs, and sometimes mammoths or woolly rhinoceroses. Hunting such animals was dangerous, especially at close range with thrusting spears or short-distance weapons. Their skeletons frequently show serious injuries, including fractures and trauma patterns sometimes compared to those of rodeo riders. But Neanderthals were not pure meat-eaters everywhere. Evidence indicates they also ate plants, mushrooms, and other local resources when available. This flexibility mattered because Ice Age environments constantly changed. A successful Neanderthal group had to know its territory intimately, where animals migrated, where plants grew, where stone could be found, and when conditions would turn deadly. The inner lives of Neanderthals are harder to reconstruct than their bones. Some finds have been interpreted as evidence of symbolic behavior, bird claws and feathers possibly used as ornaments, collections of unusual objects such as crystals or fossils, and engraved markings. These examples are fascinating, but many remain debated. Were they art, decoration, ritual, or simply practical objects that we misunderstand? Neanderthals also buried some of their dead, which suggests a degree of care and social awareness. However, burial alone does not prove a belief in an afterlife. It may reflect hygiene, protection from scavengers, emotional attachment, or social tradition. The safest conclusion is that Neanderthals had meaningful social behavior, but the exact nature of their beliefs remains beyond easy proof. Neanderthal extinction was not a single dramatic event. It was likely a long, uneven process. By around 40,000 years ago, modern humans had moved into many regions where Neanderthals lived. At the same time, Neanderthal populations were already small, scattered, and vulnerable. Low numbers can create serious problems. Inbreeding depression can reduce health and fertility. Small groups can lose skills if knowledgeable individuals die. Innovation spreads slowly when communities are isolated. Climate instability added further pressure, reshaping habitats and animal populations. Competition with modern humans may have mattered too, especially if Cro-Magnon groups had broader trade networks, more flexible technologies, or larger social alliances. In some places, such as Gibraltar, Neanderthals may have persisted for thousands of years longer, showing extinction was patchy, not instant. The most powerful twist in the Neanderthal story is that they are not completely gone. Genome studies show that Neanderthals interbred with modern humans after modern humans left Africa and entered Eurasia. As a result, many people alive today carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA. That does not make Neanderthals our ancestors in a simple linear sense, but it does mean they contributed to the genetic story of living humans. Their legacy may be linked to traits involving immunity, skin, metabolism, and adaptation to Eurasian environments, though each genetic effect is complex. Neanderthals were once dismissed as failures. Now they appear as close relatives who survived for hundreds of thousands of years, met our ancestors, exchanged genes, and left traces in our bodies, our science, and our imagination. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.